You give them your address, your full address, not just the street. They get your apartment number, your gate code, the note that says, "Leave it by the side door." They know what you ordered. They know what time you're home to receive it. They know the layout of your porch, the angle of your driveway, whether you have cameras. Every time you tap place order, you're handing a stranger a map to your front door. And most of the time, that's fine. Most of the time, the package shows up and the driver moves on. These are 4 true stories from the times it wasn't fine. I have a Ring doorbell. I installed it about 2 years ago, mostly because packages were getting stolen off my porch. I rarely check the footage unless I get a motion alert. It records, it stores, I forget about it. That's how it's supposed to work. About 4 months ago, I ordered a pair of shoes from Amazon. Normal delivery. The driver pulled up around 6 in the evening, walked to the porch, set the package down, and scanned it. I got the delivered notification on my phone. Done. That night, around 11, I got a motion alert. I almost ignored it. Could have been a cat, a raccoon, the wind blowing a branch, but I opened up the app anyway. It was the driver. Same uniform, same van parked on the street, but with the headlights off this time. He was standing on my porch, not moving, not holding a package, just standing there facing my front door, his hands at his sides. I watched the footage in real time for a moment before I realized that this was a recording from 30 minutes ago. He'd already been there. He might already be gone. I scrubbed through the timeline. He stood on my porch for 40 minutes. 40 minutes. He didn't knock. He didn't ring the bell. He didn't try the door. He just stood there, facing it, like he was waiting for something. Or listening. At the 41-minute mark, he turned around, walked to the van, and drove away. I reported it to Amazon the next day. I gave them the footage. They told me they'd look into it and that I could request a different driver for future deliveries. 2 days later, another delivery. Different driver, no issues. 4 days after that, I found a handwritten note tucked under my doormat. Not inside a package, not attached to a delivery, just a folded piece of paper tucked beneath the mat where the camera's angle doesn't quite reach. It said, "I know you're home alone on Tuesdays." I am home alone on Tuesdays. My husband works a 12-hour shift. It's the 1 day a week I'm in the house by myself from 7 in the morning until 7 at night. I've never told anyone that pattern. But someone who delivers to my house 3 times a week would notice the second car is gone every Tuesday. I filed a police report. I adjusted my Ring camera angle. I stopped ordering from Amazon for 2 months. Eventually, I started ordering again because what are you supposed to do? Never order anything? The note writer was never identified. Amazon told me the original driver was no longer active on my route. They wouldn't tell me if he was fired or just reassigned to a different zip code. For all I know, he's standing on someone else's porch right now. This one comes from the driver's side. A man I'll call Marcus had been driving for Amazon DSP for about 8 months. He liked the work fine. Decent pay, no boss over his shoulder, just him and the van and a route. Most days his route covered suburban neighborhoods, normal houses, normal people, normal drop-offs. One evening in the late fall, his route sent him to the edge of the delivery zone. Rural. Way out. The kind of road where the houses are a mile apart and the trees close in over the asphalt like a tunnel. His GPS sent him down an unpaved road. No streetlights, no mailboxes for the first quarter mile. Then, one mailbox, rusted, leaning, with the right address on it. The driveway beyond the mailbox was gravel and dirt, stretching back into thick woods. He couldn't see a house. He drove down the driveway. A quarter mile. Half a mile. The trees were close enough to scrape the van on both sides. No house. No structure. No clearing. The GPS said he'd arrived. He stopped the van and looked around. His headlights lit up a cleared lot. Just dirt. No foundation. No building. The delivery address didn't exist. He put the van in park and reached for his phone to mark the package as undeliverable. That's when he noticed the truck. Parked in the tree line about 30 yards off the clearing, facing his van. Headlights off, engine off. A dark pickup truck that was absolutely not there when he pulled in. Or if it was hidden well enough that his headlights didn't catch it. Marcus didn't wait. He put the van in reverse, backed down the driveway the entire half mile without turning around, and got back on the paved road. He marked the package as undeliverable and moved on. The next day, the same address placed another order. Same name, same delivery instructions. And in the special instructions field, one line that Marcus said made his blood go cold. Please send the same driver as yesterday. He refused the stop. He reported it to his dispatcher. The dispatcher removed the address from the route. Marcus told me he never found out what was at the end of that driveway. He never found out who placed the orders. And he never found out how they knew which driver had come the first time. Because the app doesn't show the driver's name. Someone at that address was watching close enough to identify him specifically from a truck with its lights off in the dark. A college student, I'll call her Mia, ordered textbooks from Amazon at the start of the fall semester. Normal order. The delivery driver dropped them off, scanned the package, and left. She didn't think about it. 2 days later, she got a message through the Amazon app from the driver. The app has a messaging feature that stays active briefly after delivery for communication about the package. He wrote, "Nice place. You live alone?" Mia didn't respond. She assumed it was a weird glitch, or maybe it was intended for someone else. She screenshotted it and moved on. 3 days later, another Amazon delivery. She hadn't ordered anything. The tracking showed a package from an account she didn't recognize. shipped to her address, delivered by the same driver. She opened it. It was a phone case. Not her phone model. 2 days after that, another package she didn't order. Same driver on the tracking. A scented candle. Then, a book she'd never heard of. Then, a cheap pair of earbuds. Someone was placing orders from different accounts and having them shipped to her address. The only common thread was the driver. He was routing other people's deliveries to her apartment, so he'd have a reason to come back. He was manufacturing excuses to stand at her front door. Mia reported it to Amazon. She reported it to campus police. She stopped opening her door for any delivery. Everything went to the apartment complex's package locker. The deliveries stopped for about 2 weeks. But then, she started seeing the van again. Not delivering, just parked on her street. Engine off, different times of day. She'd come home from class, and it would be there. She'd look out her window at night, and it would be there. Not always, not every day, but enough. She moved apartments at the end of the semester. Different address, different complex, different side of campus. The packages and the van sightings stopped. Mia told me she still checks the parking lot every time she comes home. Every single time. She's been doing that for 9 months. She said the worst part isn't what happened. It's that she'll never know how much he knew about her before she noticed. How long he'd been watching before he sent that first message. And whether "nice place, you live alone" was a question or a statement. A homeowner, I'll call him James, had a routine. Amazon deliveries 2 or 3 times a week. Same as most people. He had a basic security camera on the front porch. Not a Ring, just a cheap Wi-Fi camera he'd mounted above the door. One afternoon, he checked the camera after getting a delivery notification. Normal footage. Driver walks up, sets the package down, scans it. But James noticed the driver didn't leave immediately. After scanning, the driver turned and looked at the side of the house, specifically at the gate to the backyard. James thought it was odd, but didn't think much of it. People look around. A week later, another delivery. James checked the footage again. This time, the driver, same driver, walked the package to the porch, set it down, and then walked to the side of the house, off camera. He was out of frame for about 90 seconds, then walked back to the van and left. James moved the camera angle wider. Next delivery, he watched live. The driver delivered the package, then he walked to the backyard gate and photographed it. He walked to the side window and photographed the lock. He walked to the back corner of the house, the one corner with no camera coverage, and photographed the siding, the electrical panel, and the ground floor window. He was casing the house, systematically, using deliveries as cover. James called Amazon immediately. He sent them the footage. They told him the driver was terminated, effective immediately. James asked when the termination would take effect. They said they couldn't share that information. He filed a police report. He showed officers the footage. They agreed it looked like pre-burglatory surveillance, but said that without an actual crime, there wasn't much to act on. Photographing the exterior of a home isn't illegal. James installed 3 more cameras, motion-activated floodlights, a reinforced gate. He felt ridiculous, fortifying his house because of an Amazon driver. But he'd seen the footage. The driver wasn't curious. He knew exactly what he was documenting. 3 weeks later, James came home from work to find his back door forced open. Nothing high value was taken. The TV was there. The laptops were still there. But the drawers in his office had been gone through. Papers scattered. Filing cabinet open. The point of entry was the ground floor window on the side of the house with no camera footage. The exact window the driver had photographed. James pulled the footage from his new cameras. They captured a figure approaching from the back alley at 2 p.m. during work hours, when the house would be empty. The figure wore a hat and a mask, not a delivery uniform, not the same van. The police couldn't confirm it was the same person. Amazon couldn't confirm when the driver was actually terminated, or what he'd been doing in the weeks between James's report and the termination. The case is still open. James told me that the part that haunts him isn't the break-in. It's the realization that the driver had been delivering to his house for months before James started checking the footage. Months of deliveries where the driver could have been walking to the side of the house, photographing whatever he wanted, and walking back to the van. And James would have never known, because he only started paying attention when something felt off. How many deliveries did it take before he felt something was off? And how many houses did that driver visit before James's? Check your doorbell after every delivery, not just the drop-off. Watch what happens after the package hits the porch. Watch where they walk. Watch how long they stay. You might see more than a drop-off. If something like this has happened to you, as a customer or as a driver, send me your story. The link is in the description. I read every single one. Subscribe if this is your first time. New stories every week.